Hello, Hockey World. I'm talking to you with a slight cold, so ignore my voice if it's horrible, but we got lots to get into today. But first, with Taras with something to say.
Well, there's something that's being overblown today that's happening on television, and that is it's not the U.S. losing to Japan in softball. I watched like 5 minutes of that. Not that. Not that. It's although I feel bad because there's no softball in the next Olympics, so you do feel bad for the athletes that don't get a chance to like come back and win. All right, but Aaron Rodgers showed up to training camp, and I'm not shocked. If there's one league that owns their players, truly owns their players, it's the NFL. It doesn't matter how much money you make in the NFL. They have you by the you-know-whats. If you don't show up to training camp, you get fined $50,000 a day. Now, it doesn't even matter anymore if you have an excuse, if you're sick or whatever. So, like if Aaron Rodgers wanted to sit and pout because he didn't get the trade he wanted, guess what? He was going to get fined $50,000 a day. So now he trots in there, and everybody's like, well, we don't know if there's an agreement. We don't know that. It doesn't matter. He's in camp. Yeah. He could sit and watch and not practice, and his teammates will hate him. But the fact is the NFL won here, and so did the Packers, because this league really owns their players. And the NFLPA really, if they wanted to do one thing, it would be change that. Because it's a brutal sport, and I do feel bad for the players. But, man, even Tom Brady, look how long it took for him to get away from Belichick, because he wasn't liking Belichick the last few years either.
Yeah. No, it is terrible. I mean, it's awful.
Well, it's weird how the oppressiveness of the NFL when it comes to their players is bad in one respect, but in another area it's good. And the area where it's good is the NFL – I think imposing their will on players to get them to take the vaccine. That's one of the very
good. No, I think that's good.
Yeah, that's one of the very few instances where the sort of the control that they have. I mean, from what I heard, they're going to penalize players, I think $15,000 if they catch COVID.
Yeah,
something like that. If that's the case,
well, you can't. But hold on, you can't do it if they catch COVID and they've been vaccinated twice, because that is possible.
Yeah,
they probably can only do it if they're
unvaccinated.
Well, that I'm fine with, 100% fine with that.
Well, plus,
that I would be fine with.
Plus the teams are apparently subject to a forfeit if too many players catch COVID. And if that's the case, then they're really giving. There's a negative repercussion for them, not doing it. So
and as we inch closer to the trading deadline for hockey, baseball's is Friday, and there is a subject that came up that is a really good subject, which ties into the vaccine, and that is, do you want your team to trade for an unvaccinated player for top prospects, because that guy could come to your team, get COVID, and never produce down the stretch when you're trying to make the playoffs? Like, that's a big deal now.
It's a huge deal. I mean, COVID is not just like, you can get it and be asymptomatic and all that stuff. You can get it and not be that terrible. But you can also get it and have it stay in your system for like 6 months. It's like, we've seen that with players too. We saw that with, I think it was, who was it? Zibanejad last year on the Rangers.
Zibanejad had it for a while.
He said it affected him all year. Like,
Major League pitcher had it. He had to miss the season. He came back this year. So yeah.
I mean, it definitely gets to your lungs and gets to your breathing, and it takes your lungs a long time to recover from it. It's a horrible thing. It's way different than people think. So
and Russ, it's funny, and then we'll go start because there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
Oh yeah.
The Yankees blew a game against the Red Sox up 4-0 in the 8th inning. They bring in a pitcher, Jonathan Loaizaga, who we have on our fantasy team, who just came off the COVID list, and he got hammered, and they were all ripping him to shreds. And I'm like, this guy just came off he's probably not 100%. So why are you bringing him in the first place? Even if it's up 4-0, why are you doing it? So
I think that's a lack of understanding from the manager. No.
Russ, he has no control over it. It's the analytics crew.
Well, you know what? The manager does, Mike, because the manager could see what the analytics crew wants to do, and then he could say exactly what Eck just said and said, I don't think this guy's up to it physically. I got to sort of work this guy back in. I can't put him in the same role. He may not be the same. And if he can do that, that's his job, ultimately.
And if he flies in the face of the analytics crew, he gets fired.
And he's going to get fired. Aaron Boone will get fired if they don't make the playoffs. Mark my words.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get started. Here we go. Ready, guys? All right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, July 27th, 2021.
I'm Michael Lagello, wearing my Genesis shirt.
Very nice.
We could see that, Mike. I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. And there's two things that I think are driving everything right now, because I've been on the phone constantly for the last 3 days. And there's two major teams that are driving everything right now. And I want to get to those two teams. And the first team of that we can talk about is the Colorado Avalanche, who are absolutely have $20 million in cap space. Okay. Understand they've got a lot of cap space. They've only got 14 players signed right now. They've got a ton of UFAs that's sitting out there, players that are actually important to their team, and obviously the two big ones right at the top, everyone knows of Landeskog and everyone knows of Grubauer, but there's other guys too. And, they are really, the Landeskog situation is obviously holding them up, and they're trying to figure out what to do. There is nothing yet that, I'm looking around, and I know Thomas in our chat room said that he was leaving Colorado. I haven't been able to find anything about that definitely for sure yet. There are rumors, people, of course, throwing that out there, but the bigger one to me, Landeskog was a tough one to hold on to. It's tough to figure out, but the bigger one to me is actually Grubauer, who I think that Colorado just is being a little bit naive if they think that they can just let Grubauer go and pick up somebody else.
I don't know if they think that. You know what it is? I think they have to solve one way or the other the Landeskog situation before they get to Grubauer.
But as I think the goalie situation is always the more important one,
maybe not with this team though.
But I mean, who are they going? It depends. I mean, if they're willing to go, for somebody that's unproven or what have you.
Well, no, I don't think they're willing to go with somebody unproven, but I do think that they think that there might be an upgrade out there. Even though Grubauer was nominated for the Vezina last year, he didn't come through in the playoffs.
He hasn't ever come through in the playoffs, and that's been an issue.
And Pierre LeBrun just reported that Colorado is among 5 teams that have kicked tires on Kemper.
Yep.
Kemper's got 1 year left on his deal on his contract. We've seen, and we'll talk about what the Coyotes continue to be a garbage scow in terms of taking on bad contracts.
Yeah.
And why should that stop now? The only thing that I would give me any pause with Arizona is they trade Kemper. They have no goalies in their organization that have played an NHL game.
It doesn't even matter.
There are a lot of goalies out there.
Sure.
There are a lot of UFA goalies they can pick up. I mean,
but what they're clearly doing, and somebody said this a couple of days ago. They're clearly tanking for Shane Wright.
Yeah.
Buffalo are doing the same thing.
I think that's
true. I will say this, Zach. As far as the goalie market, there are going to be goalies that get overpaid in this. And as an example, if you're a team like the Flyers that doesn't have much cap space, you're going to take what's left over.
Yeah.
Teams like Colorado, whoever decides they need a goalie who have a lot of cap space, they're the teams in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't help but think the Grubauer and Draisaitl, of course, are tight. And I know that you're not allowed to talk, those are two of the best German hockey players in the world. Probably the two best German hockey players in the world. Teams aren't allowed to talk to each other. People are allowed to talk to each other, but I can't help but think that there's been a discussion between Draisaitl and Grubauer.
I mean, that's
what Stutzla might want to say something about it, but yeah.
Well, who's that?
What'd you say?
Tim Stutzla might want to say something about it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's true. But I think that
Dominic Cahoon. Oh, never mind.
No. But the reality is, they can't talk ahead of time. But Grubauer is sticking to 6. He wants above $6 million a year for 5 years. Now he turned down a $5.5 million for 5-year deal. To me, that's not Colorado and he are not that far apart for Colorado to dig in when they have $21 million in cap space, and it looks like Landeskog is not coming back. Now, if Landeskog comes back, that could change quickly, of course. But I think that Colorado's backup plan for Landeskog is signing Jaden Schwartz. I don't think it's the same kind of thing, but I think that.
Well, a lot of things have attached Schwartz to Seattle, which
I think that when you look at how Schwartz is reacting, but having talked to like Andy Strickland out there and stuff like that, who is really tight with Jaden Schwartz and a bunch of the other Blues, it really feels like there's two teams. And hearing Andy on the radio, I think he even said this. There are two teams that he has that Jaden Schwartz feels confident he could go to. That's why that he's not. Strickland says he's just not coming back to St. Louis. And if he's confident he can go to two teams, he's only been able to talk to one team. So you got to think Seattle is a team he confidently could go to, and then the other team is Colorado as a backup for Landeskog. That's what I've heard.
I would think with Schwartz though that Seattle would be like the backup plan. I would think there's no reason to go to Seattle first. I think he still has enough tread on the tire there at 29. He gets hurt once in a while. I get it, but he's still a really good point guy. I don't think he has to go to Seattle first.
I've heard the talk that if Landeskog departs Colorado, that more than likely they re-sign Brandon Saad, even though they wouldn't cost them anywhere close to what Landeskog would cost, because Saad had a pretty good year with them last year.
Yeah, that's a filler for that.
But I'll tell you, I keep looking at this, and when it comes to the construct of Colorado, when you have JT Compher as your number 3, and you have a rookie in Alex Newhook coming in who can play behind McKinnon, if you're tight on cap space, which you just said, I mean, even though they got $20 million, they only have 14 players signed. They need to open up more cap space. I would seriously doubt that, or I would seriously think that you're going to hear a Nazem Kadri trade. That they're going to trade Kadri with a year left at $4.5 million, clear that out to maybe bring in a Kemper or a goaltender like a Holtby or somebody like that who could, might be a little pricey, but they need that goalie.
I don't think they're trading Kadri. I think they would have gotten rid of him already.
Holtby could be bought out today. I've heard that, and if that's the case, then that changes a lot of things, right?
They're not going to buy him out. I would be surprised.
The deadline for buyout is today. I think it's 5 p.m.
Yep. Yeah, it is. Now I just got a text from somebody else that I know who says that he hears Landeskog is coming back to Colorado, but it's going down to the end. Okay, so listen. However that plays out, if Landeskog comes back,
I still think he ends up in Colorado.
If he ends up in Colorado, then Grubauer at 6+ is not going to happen, right?
No.
So the issue that's these players are obviously tied to each other, and it feels like with what they're asking for, Colorado.
And Edmonton can't afford Grubauer at that either. So
the only thing I could see with Landeskog does come back to Colorado is that because most of the deals out there, remember, are 7-year deals, 6 or 7-year deals. He could sign the 8-year deal to spread the AAV out to make it like around $7 million, $7.5 million a year, which is palatable for him. And that gives him the money up front or in the first.
I think that's what will happen, honestly. And then as far as Grubauer, I think if he's looking for a higher payday, again, if Edmonton's going to do it, then they really do need to buy out Koskinen, or they won't have close to enough money.
I'm shocked that you know what it is, Russ? I will bet you anything they're looking for some sucker to take Koskinen, and there you go. There's the Arizona Coyotes waiting for you.
I mean, they're taking everybody, so I mean, you might as well call them.
No, it's true. It really is true.
They're a dumping ground at this point.
Can we talk about that trade for a second? Honestly, at this point, can the NHL say that any deal is not within the bounds of legality?
Yeah, I think the commissioner has that power, but he's not going to do it.
Right, because
they used to do that all the time.
They traded. They made the Andrew Ladd trade and got nothing. They made this deal where they get Anton Stroman, who, by the way, is not a front-loaded deal. He's making $5.5 million, and that's the money that's being paid. So they bought a second and a prospect.
Yeah. Russian prospect who's pretty good.
Yeah, for a $5.5 million cap hit, which will expire at the end. So they
gave a 7th because they have to give something in return. If they didn't have to give something in return, they wouldn't have.
They didn't give anything in return for Ladd. There was not future considerations.
That's still something in return, though, Mike.
No, there was a time. Okay,
that's like when I borrow something from you and never give it to you back.
What, a case of Yoo-hoo they're getting in there?
Yeah.
There was a time that the NHL would stop these kind of things. And I remember the most famous one of all is the draft in Montreal, where Tampa and Montreal had a deal that was going to send Lecavalier to Montreal, but it wasn't. Right. And the NHL said, no, this is not a fair trade for both teams, and they nixed it. The end of that's long. The salary cap is, really the more complicated the salary cap gets, the less the NHL cares about that.
This is Russ. We have now seen the NBA type deal.
Yep.
happening in the NHL. These are expiring contracts, so Arizona can get to the cap floor.
Yep.
That
like we knew we would. We knew it was a matter of time. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, again, for the example of the Ladd deal, and there was another deal. Oh, got the Gostisbehere deal where the bonuses had been paid. They're getting $10 million in cap space against the cap floor for $2 million in real money. So I compared the Arizona Coyotes to, you remember the movie Con Air where they had the one scene where they had the airplane graveyard? That's the Arizona Coyotes. They're the airplane graveyards, except it's bad contracts that they've collected.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to point this out too. We could all say online that, hey, Arizona's doing the right thing. Look, they're rebuilding again. They're getting all these picks. They're doing all that. And then eventually they have to pay their guys. There's two guys that are really paying on that team now. Because I think they're still going to make more trades. But right now, Keller's clearly in their plans and Chychrun. Everybody else is up for grabs. And that's crazy.
It's true. It is crazy. Now, beyond the Colorado Avalanche being important tomorrow, and they'll be very important because they do have other players to sign, like we said. And I'm betting you'll see some of them sign today. At some point, Sakic's got to make a call here because he can't go with only 14 players into UFA day tomorrow and let a lot of these guys just walk.
His one advantage, Eck, is that free agents may take less to play there for a year, like Toronto. It's like the opportunity to play with McKinnon, with Rantanen, with Makar.
Well, for sure. But they are not, like, right now, as it sits right now, they're not a cup contender. If they lose everybody, they're going to lose.
But they're not gonna. Stuff will happen at the last minute, at the 11th hour, and that's the game he's playing.
That's what we very much expect to be the case. But as of now, we haven't seen it. So, like, what we're going to the other team, I have to tell you that I think is going to be incredibly surprising tomorrow is going to be Seattle. And just talking, the more people I talk to, I think that when we looked at the draft, and everybody's obviously very underwhelmed with the expansion draft that Seattle did. Like, it's a very underwhelming team. They made a couple signings that were good. They made a couple good picks, but there's a lot of players they could have gotten that would have cost them a little bit more, but they didn't get. Their actual draft is so much less impressive than Vegas's actual draft. But I think Francis's idea the entire time was that with the flat cap and all these UFAs out there, he was going that way. That was his whole thing. And from what I've heard from people, that he's going to be able to, you'd rather go out there and get like a Brendan Saad and sign him at your own amount, that you want to, versus getting a guy who's already, got like $5 million under the cap or whatever. So what we're going to see tomorrow from Seattle, we're going to see the actual Seattle Kraken come together tomorrow, I think. And
I think to a point. The general feeling out there is that Francis does not want to lock himself into deals long term. Even if it's free agency, unless it's a player who's extremely young. And now Schwartz has had injury problems. That's something I think they would maybe shy a little bit away from. I don't know what the term on that deal would be, but I'll tell you what he's going to do, Eck. Maybe he signs a free agent or two, but you look at down the line, he's got $33 million in cap space for next year with expiring contracts. He's not going to want to take too much away from that because next free agent class, he can hit the bonanza. He can hit the grand slam home run. He'll be the guy with all the money and everybody wanting to go there because they have the money.
Yeah. I mean,
how much he'll spend, Eck? He's going to spend $10.2 million. So he's at the cap floor and he's going to stop.
I don't think that's true because it just
I think it's true.
I mean, knowing the owners there, they are going to want this team to be competitive right off the bat. They're not going to be okay with this team being
They're not going to be a playoff team.
They're not.
Will they be competitive with the roster that they have right now with a few?
No.
Yes.
The roster they have right now, they're not competitive at all.
No. What I think Mike means is they'll play in a lot of close games.
Yes.
That's what will happen with this team.
They don't want to be trounced. They don't want to be, this is not going to be, there's no way they're going to be Vegas. No friggin' way.
Like if you score 3 goals, they're going to start cheap shotting your best guys. Like that's what's going to happen. That's going to be the kind of team they are. But Eck, they're spending $10.2 million, and I don't think a penny more.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't.
Because cap space.
We'll see.
Cap space.
He wants to have the cap space.
Cap space is king. It's king.
But it's not ever going to be more king than it is going to be tomorrow. I mean, the reality is that now, space is enormously king.
I'll tell you when it's going to be king, Eck, and that's whenever the trade deadline is this year, because teams are not going to be able to fit players under their cap unless they have a dump zone for somebody else. And hey, Arizona has proven, well, there's one dump zone, but they've already taken to probably all the bad contracts they can. Seattle, if they're expiring contracts or if they're contracts that other teams want to dispose of, they're going to be there.
I understand the logic of this, guys, what you're saying. I understand the logic of what you're doing, what you're saying here. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing based on talking to people I have some connections in Seattle ownership and stuff like that, and I just don't get that sense. Now, I think that they'll sign some 1-year deals on guys that they could then trade at the deadline. Yes, absolutely. They will do that. That will happen.
They have players on the roster right now that
they already have that. Yeah. And they might sign some more of those. But the reality is there are too many players available tomorrow and too little money available by a lot. And you're going to be able to get players for way cheaper than you can imagine tomorrow.
Yeah, and they have 4 RFAs too, Eric. They're not going to spend a lot. I think they will get a good player and a depth player, and then they're going to spend their RFAs, and they'll be right where they want to be.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the impression I get, I mean, this is a group that really did want. I mean, they're going to let Francis do what he wants to do. They proved that because they wanted to go after Price, and and that came out later. And I was saying it the whole time that they were going to go after Price, but they let Francis make the decision, right? So
and Francis will keep making the decision.
And Francis will keep making decisions. I get that, but I think that because he's got so much capital to spend here, and not going after Price was, I get the sense that he said, listen, we're not going to get Price, but I'm good because we're going to have plenty of free agents available for us on UFA day, and we're going to make that happen. I think that's what's happening. I don't think they are going to sit back and that $21 million they were going to spend for Price will get you a lot in this market right now.
I think they're going to dabble. I do not think they're going to make a big monstrous splash, because they'd be tying up money when they're not competitive. I mean, when they're not going to be a playoff team. You want to sign free agents, fine. You want to fill out the roster, fine. You want to be a better team than they are right now, fine. But at a certain point, you don't want to lock yourself up on 2 or 3 year deals, which basically a lot of these players want right off the hop. I could see
you're not going to have to lock yourself up on those deals, Mike, because no one's going to be giving them. It's not like anyone's going to give them.
I could see Seattle waiting. Maybe they'll make one big signing tomorrow, but I could see Seattle being the team that around August 15th is picking off 2 or 3 or 4 free agents because they can get them for a lot less.
I think that will happen too. I do agree with. That'll be the filling out of their team. I agree, but I think they will go for, I would say, 3 major players tomorrow. And
what do you call major players? $7 million or more?
$5 million or more.
I
think 5 million or more players.
I think they'll sign 1.
I do too.
I know they'll sign 1. We know they'll sign 1, but
I don't think it'll be any more than 1.
I don't think so. I think that there are some.
That'll be the narrative for tomorrow.
But that's what I think. I mean, and that plays into the whole into everything. That's why I feel Colorado and Seattle kind of hold the keys to this whole thing. The other thing that Colorado holds a key to is that Landeskog is really screwing up the Eichel negotiations. I was told by a couple people, because the same teams that are interested in trading for Eichel, who have that kind of money to make it happen or have ways of making that happen, are the ones who would sign Landeskog. So if Landeskog,
2 different positions, it makes no sense.
They are different positions, but they're not everyone. Not everyone needs a center necessarily, but you're not going to turn away Eichel. So at the same time. I think Minnesota and I bet the Rangers get in on Landeskog if they decide to fall out.
The Rangers are focused on Eichel. I would disagree with that.
I think the 2 leading candidates for Landeskog, if not Colorado, would be 2 teams in the West. One being LA, because LA is looking for that top 6 forward and they got money, and the other, which has been constant throughout this whole thing, has been St. Louis. Now, since with St. Louis, that probably depends on them finding a dumping ground for Tarasenko, and
they're really running into trouble with that, because I was talking to somebody about that today, and there are teams that aren't happy with the way Armstrong has played this. This is very similar to what we saw last year with McCrimmon in Seattle playing the Fleury thing.
Vegas.
I'm getting the same vibe from talking to different gyms and different people. They're like, yeah, Armstrong's played this really. I wish I should bring up a text I had about this. He's really screwed it. He's really screwed this up because teams are really pissed off about it. The way he's handled
What
it.
are they pissed off about exactly?
Is it the medicals? Is that what?
No. It's more about this. Like when you negotiate, there's sort of like a GM code when you negotiate with people, And if you say to someone, like, I'm thinking about this, and they say, okay, well, what about this? And you come so say they for Tarasenko, let's use the Flyers for example. The Flyers, they bailed out on Tarasenko and they went and and they got Atkinson. They were very much looking at the Voracek for Tarasenko swap that was out there. They bailed and then they went and did Atkinson, which turned out I think better for them in the end. But so if you're the Flyers and you're negotiating with Tarasenko with Armstrong, and Armstrong says, I want this, and the Flyers say, well, I'll give you this, and Armstrong says, well, I'll take that. That's not bad. I might want a little bit more, but I'll take that. And how much more do you want? Well, let's see. I'll get back to you on that. And then, so now you've made a commitment of something that you definitely are willing to do,
and that locks you in.
And then you call him back and you're like, I'm ready to go. What more do you need? Like a 4th round pick, or what do you want to make to finish this off? He says, no, actually, I thought about it and I don't want that. And this is but you told me you would take that before. That's what happened last year with Fleury and McCrimmon. That's what's happening right now with Tarasenko and Armstrong. And that's a tough spot to be in. That really puts.
Yeah, that's a tactic, no doubt.
It is, and it's him trying to get the best return for Tarasenko. He doesn't have to trade Tarasenko. He's allowed to do this. It's just at some point it gets harder because of the way he's doing it.
At some point you have to jump if you're that general manager.
Yeah, you just don't trust them because
I don't think the Flyers are getting them because I don't think they can afford them.
No, they're done. They went to Atkinson instead. So that was, but they definitely. That scenario I played out there, that definitely played out with the Flyers, and it played out.
Luckily, they got the second deal, like you said, because if they'd have acted on the first deal, it wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like it's if you believe the doctors and Tarasenko's healthy and all that stuff, it's hard to say that Tarasenko's going to score more goals if he's healthy than Atkinson is going to score.
Well, of course, but I don't think he'll be healthy for long. That's the problem.
I think St. Louis is getting to be in the position here where they have a player that's requested a trade. They have a player with a questionable injury history. They want the cap space to be able to spend on other players. It's almost going to be the Buchnevich deal in reverse, Russ, where they're going to get probably a draft pick and a middle of the road player for Tarasenko just to get him out of there.
Well, I mean, I could see a Tarasenko for Kuznetsov trade. I could see that.
Well, that's
been very quiet, and maybe that's something that could be worked out.
Yeah, but does St. Louis want that train wreck?
Well, I mean, that's the only way they're getting rid of Tarasenko.
It really is. I mean, the other options aren't there. I mean, they can move. I mean, you could move Tarasenko to Seattle maybe if you threw like 2 or 3 draft picks in there. But
I don't think they want the money.
Let's talk about the other deal yesterday because that might affect this with the Brendan Dillon deal.
Yeah,
to Winnipeg for a couple 2nd-round picks. I don't know if I'm Dillon, I'm not exactly happy here because, he gets traded from San Jose to Washington. He agrees to a 4-year extension with the Caps.
Yep.
And then 1 year into the 4-year deal, he's traded to Winnipeg.
Well, he did nothing. To be fair, I watched a lot of Caps games.
He really is not good.
And Dillon did nothing for the Capitals.
He's really not a good player right now. I don't know what it is. I mean, he
might be better for Winnipeg, but he did nothing for them.
Well, apparently, I'm not sure about this because I didn't watch many Sharks games, but he did play apparently with DeMello in San Jose. Then before DeMello went to Ottawa, so maybe they think that pairing will work. I mean, it's a big risk. He paid a hefty price, 2 2nd-round picks, and he's making $3.9 million for another 3 years. So, he better work out or they're in trouble. But
I mean, I don't think it's a bad move for them, and maybe he's a better defender in the West than he is in the East. That's possible, but I felt like even in San Jose when I was watching him play, I thought he was overrated. And then when Washington went and got him, I thought, well, he looked okay with Washington the first little bit when he was there, and in the playoffs, I think it didn't look too bad, but he definitely is not what people make him out to be in my mind.
Now the question here, looking at the Capitals, Kuznetsov is $7.8 million for 4 years.
Yeah, that's similar to Tarasenko.
No, Tarasenko's only 2, and he's left.
Only 2 years. I know.
So but we know the off the ice things with Kuznetsov. It's something that I'm not sure if Bill Armstrong or if Doug Armstrong is going to want to take on that. But if you want to trade crap for crap or train wreck for train wreck, then maybe it works. But now Washington's got $13 million in cap space after trading Dillon. Russ, do you think they're happy with their goaltending being Samsonov and Phoenix Copley?
No, I think I just saw they put Phoenix Copley on waivers. So, no, they're not happy with that. They're going to look for a goalie. I just looked up Dillon. He was playing like 18 and a half minutes. I forget. Did he play with Carlson? He did, right?
Yeah, he played second pairing, but I don't remember who with who.
He wasn't with Carlson.
He was second pairing.
He was sometimes with Carlson.
Yeah, I thought he played a little with Carlson, but anyhow, he had a few more points than he normally gets.
I think he played with Justin Schultz.
Okay, he was playing with Schultz.
I think so.
But his time on the ice, like for the, I would expect him to have been over 20 minutes, and he wasn't. Anyhow, as far as goalies, yes, they need another goalie, and they're in that same market as everybody else, but they have some money.
I think the goalie market is going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic.
I read about yesterday, and I agree. It's going to be crazy. Go ahead, continue, Russ. What you're saying there?
No, it is. I mean, they're in line like everybody else is in line, and they're going to spend not too much because they are just looking for a backup, but they still have to have somebody to kind of cover for Samsonov in case he's still not at the height of his power.
I would look at like Elliott and Halak, down there. I think those are two guys that they would.
I could see Halak.
I think the two of them, but would be good. Elliott's
going to have a hard time getting a job. I mean, I'm going to be realistic.
Think so. Actually, no, I've talked to a lot of people. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I think he's going to hang out there for a while.
Pierre Brun just posted the Avs are scheduled to talk with Grubauer's camp today. Both sides trying to bridge the gap. The goalie loves it in Colorado, but can they get a deal done? If it's $5.5 million, I don't think they can get the deal done. I think that's
they can't get the deal done.
They offered $5.5 million.
I think
they already offered $5.5 million. He wants $6.5 million.
Well, he's not getting $6.5.
If they landed $6 million here, I would do it in a heartbeat because the reality is that there's nobody better for Colorado out there than he is, and he knows that that's the best place he can play. I mean, it's really a situation where I think at the end of the day, Grubauer has to think unless Grubauer, like I said, and I'm not trying to say that there's the tampering going on here, but unless Grubauer has talked to Draisaitl through the grapevine and somehow Draisaitl's talked to Edmonton and says he'll come here for $6 million and Edmonton knows a way to make that happen, that's the only way I see Grubauer taking this kind of a stance, like this kind of a harsh stance. Like to me, otherwise he takes 5.5 or 6.
I mean, honestly, if they do not buy him out by, I think it's 5. I think the deadline is 5 p.m. today. If the Oilers do not buy out Mikko Koskinen, fit him for a Coyotes jersey.
Yeah, I'm going to argue also. I agree. I'm going to argue this Elliott case because even when they were in the bubble, he was a -8 for his GSAA. This year, -14, .889 save percentage, 36 years old, worst year of his career. I think he's going to be hanging out there for a while. I do.
Well, this is the thing on Elliott is this, and I do agree with this thinking 100%. And I think you do too, because we talked about this before. But the thing on Elliott is if he's your backup, he's great. And if he comes in every 4 or 5 games, he's a great backup. And that's what
was great. We don't know if he's
but when he's forced into a starting role like he was last year for the Flyers, he's not great. And those numbers you're looking at last year, I would love to see his numbers in the beginning of the year when he was just
told you the year 2 years ago. I went 2 years ago.
But that was a bubble, right? And you were talking about in the bubble, or were you talking about
in the bubble? Last year
before the bubble, though, he wasn't. I mean, that's that whole year of the bubble year you're talking about.
Russ and I went through the Atlantic Division yesterday to say what teams are looking for at least one goalie and maybe 2. And in the Atlantic Division of 8 teams, I think we said 5 were looking for goaltenders. If you extrapolate that out to the entire league, there are probably 15 teams that are looking either for a 1B or a backup or a starter. And there are not like 25 good goalies out there.
I'm going to go 3 years ago to satisfy Eck. When he was 11-11, he had a 909. He was still a -2.2 for his GSAA. No, he had a 907. Sorry. In the bubble, he had an 899, and his GSAA was a -8. And then last year, 889, and his GSAA is a -14. He really hasn't had a good year in a while, Eck. I think I can't imagine a team is going to go for him first. Or on the first day, all these other goalies out there. There's no way.
Well, like you said, no, I'm not saying he's the first call that you make, but I'm
I don't
saying
think he gets a
what
call
Mike
that-
just
I
said
don't
with
think he
all the
gets picked
goalies that are needed, Elliott finds a spot. There's no question about it.
I think at the end, I don't think anywhere near else.
Just as an exercise, why don't we just quickly go through, the teams? Because Carolina has no goaltenders signed.
They have 0 goalies on the payroll.
Okay, Columbus has Merzlikins and Korpisalo. They may trade one of them because there are so many teams looking for goalies. New Jersey's probably looking for a backup for Black. Maybe they go with Wedgwood because they're not a play.
I don't think they will.
I can tell you what they're doing because I talked to people yesterday about them, and they are trying to get Robin Leonard. They're making.
I did see that. I saw that Leonard wants to come back on the East Coast.
They've talked, and so the issue is, so Vegas is let's just go off for a second on a tangent with Vegas. Vegas is absolutely trying to move one of them. Like Vegas will, I think ideally, ironically, they'd rather move Leonard than Fleury. It feels like they actually, and Fleury's older and Leonard's signed for longer.
But here's the thing: if they trade Leonard, then they need a goalie because they need somebody who can play at least 40 games to give Fleury rest.
Right, they do, and they could turn to a lock. Or
but they'll get a cheaper goalie. That's the
I mean, the issue is that Leonard. I think the Leonard Fleury combo is not the greatest. From what I've heard, they don't, not that they don't get along, but it's just not like we saw. It wasn't the most positive situation.
They both thrive on work, but the thing is, with Fleury, he can't play 60 games anymore. His tank will be empty if he plays 60 games during the regular season.
But the signing yesterday of Martinez, the $5 million a year, that basically solidified the fact that they've got to move one of those goalies. They are really stuck now, so they have to. And I think they don't do. I don't think they do that unless they know they can move one of those goalies. Right. And they now again, McCrimmon has played games with people before, so it could get a little hairy.
Well,
we'll see. If they're going to do it, they have to do it today because I honestly think they have to move the goalie today because by tomorrow things get nuts.
And if they're in the Eichel sweepstakes, which I doubt because I don't know how they
are, but
they're going to have to move players like Alex Tuck in the deal because they clear space. But okay, so just quickly, Islanders have 2 goalies, Rangers have 2 goalies. They're fine. Flyers are looking for a backup or a 1B. Pittsburgh, are they happy with Jarry and Casey DeSmith?
No, they're not.
They're not, but I don't know if they have the.
They're talking to Vegas.
So we'll get some sort of goalie in there.
They're talking to Vegas, and Frederik Andersen's a big name on their list.
Right. Okay. Washington's probably looking for a 1B or a backup. Arizona has Kemper, who they're trading, and after that they have no goalies.
Right.
Chicago has Lankinen. They're probably looking for at least.
They're looking for a goalie.
Colorado has no goal. They have Pavel Francouz signed, so they're looking for 2. Dallas, if Ben Bishop is actually healthy, they could move him.
Yeah,
no, they can't. Nobody wants Ben Bishop.
But if he's healthy,
it doesn't matter, Mike. He's healthy for 10 minutes. Nobody's buying into that anymore.
Plus, in this market, take a risk.
I disagree.
Minnesota lost, or no, they didn't lose Kakinen, so they're fine with Kakinen.
No, they're fine.
And Talbot. Nashville's looking for a backup for Saros.
Yep.
St. Louis has got
their AHL guys. They're pretty close to ready. So,
the former Tampa prospect.
Yeah, they're gonna. I think he's gonna be their backup, and eventually it's Askarov's coming over. So.
Right. True. St. Louis, they have Husso and Binnington, so they're fine. Winnipeg, Brossois, and Hellebuck. Anaheim has to find a backup for since Miller retired. Calgary, they need a backup.
They're okay right now. They have Richie and they have
they don't have Rittich. Rittich was traded to Toronto.
Rittich, not Rittich. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. Yes, sorry about that.
They need a backup. Edmonton needs a starter because they have Methuselah Smith as their goalie. LA is good with Quick and Peterson.
Edmonton's not looking for a starter, Mike. Let's be real.
Oh my God! If they're looking for a backup,
they're looking for a 1B or a backup. That's what they're looking for.
That's not true. They're definitely looking for.
That's what they're going to end up with. Well,
who knows what they're going to end up with? But they are absolutely in the Frederik Andersen game, and they might really be in the Grubauer game too. So that's
could San Jose find a taker for Martin Jones? If they do, something's wrong because Martin Jones is terrible.
It'd be unlikely.
But is their starter going to be Aiden Hill?
Yep.
Yeah, they don't care about that.
Vancouver may buy out Holtby, may trade Holtby, and Vegas.
I don't think they're buying him out.
So of all the teams I read off,
they'll either buy him out or trade him, one way or the other. I've heard, and
yeah, they're going to try and trade him.
That's
can't trade him to buy him out.
That's 24 teams, and easily half of them are looking for a backup or starter or both.
Heck, there is no way, even if they buy out Koskinen, that they could afford Freddie Anderson. They still have
Freddie Anderson
Yamamoto to sign as an RFA. They only have $9 million in space.
Yeah, but don't give up a third-round pick to save yourself $500,000 in space, Ken Holland. That's brilliant.
They did. They also not having to sign Larson, that helps them.
Well, not really.
That helps them cap space wise.
Yeah, cap space. But they're scrambling, right? I mean,
they're going to get another defenseman. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, their defense is in trouble right now.
It's bad.
They will be in the they'll be in the goalie game, no questions asked.
And they're going to be in the defense game too, because their defense is bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know what that means, because I mean, okay, they're not trading the top 3 forwards. They're signing Hyman. Can they find somebody to take Zach Cassian off their hands at $3.2 million?
They could, and then someone brings up in the chat, and they could make. I could see a Koskinen plus a second-round draft pick plus something else for a Kemper trade type thing. I could see something like that happening.
Now remember,
that might happen.
Well, I'll give you one. They could trade Oscar Klefbom, because Klefbom is done. He may be done for his career. He's got 2 years left. He would go on LTIR. They could trade him to some team that's up against.
Only because that's a guess. I don't think they're going to do that, Mike, because they're not fully sure yet. They know they're going to put him on LTIR, but he could still come back the next year.
I think Buffalo might take that gamble. Maybe. I think Buffalo might be a team that would take that gamble and say, okay, we'll take him. We'll take him.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Buffalo's going to take some money too. Like what we've seen Arizona doing, I think Buffalo's going to end up doing.
But Edmonton's tight on money. They are.
Yeah, but
they have to make money. Their fan base is demanding a goalie, and they know it. They're up against it.
They know it's when they signed Mike Smith. Sorry, Mike.
The Toronto story is very interesting, because they don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of room. They have about, I think, $11 million in cap space. The chatter that I'm hearing is that they're talking, and I think that they're going to end up re-signing Nick Foligno, because Foligno really doesn't have anything to go back to with Columbus as a rebuild.
I think that's possible. I do that when you talk to people around the league, the resounding opinion on Toronto is that they are going to get Darcy Kemper. That is just a completely. Like everybody I talk to says, "Oh, by the way, I hear Toronto's getting Kemper." They'll throw that into discussion.
And I'll tell you what the trade will end up being. It'll be Travis Dermott and Alex Kerfoot. That's what it'll end up being, because the cap. What's that?
That's a lot to give up.
No, it's not. When you need a goaltender.
I know, but you got to find a way to keep Kerfoot.
I think what they're going to do
is not give up that much, by the way.
Maybe not. I mean, but Kerfoot is an answer for them, either a third-line center or second-line left wing, and they like him, but they need the cap space. So if they can make a deal with Arizona that involves Dermott or one of their prospect defensemen like Liljegren, and a draft pick, you'd probably have to get Arizona to retain something, and they're not retaining anything. They don't want to retain. And I think the competition for Kemper will be so hot and heavy with those 3 or 4 or 5 teams that they might have to pay that price.
You know who the Leafs aren't trading, Mike?
What's that?
You know who the Leafs aren't trading?
Well, not right now, but when they face the inevitable decision, they will trade him.
Not this season, they won't.
Not this season, they won't, because Brendan Shanahan and Kyle Dubas have painted themselves into the corner. They've locked themselves in on the core 4, but I honestly, they have to re-sign Morgan Riley. In my estimation, he's more important to that team than William Nylander. They have to sign Morgan Riley.
Yeah, I think they do.
Now, I asked the question.
Hard to argue that.
I asked the question to Dubas, and he said they haven't talked to Riley yet. And the indications that I've heard before is that they're not going to talk to Riley until after free agency, because that's next year business.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to re-sign Foligno. I think they're probably going to try to re-sign Alex Galchenyuk, and try to find themselves a veteran defenseman. But I think number one on their list is finding a goaltender.
I do have breaking news that'll be good fodder for a minute. David Pagnotta is reporting that Josh Ho-Sang is going to get a fresh start this summer as he looks to get back to the NHL. Keep an eye on the Leafs, likely a 2-way contract when completed.
Well, first of all, I thankfully that is David Pagnotta. Let me just pass this message out. Everybody who is a fake LeBrun or a fake Drager or a fake Eklund or a fake David Pagnotta, go F yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a fake Eklund, don't you have better things to do with your life? Seriously.
I think I have better things to do, and I'm a real Eklund.
I mean, how many people, including me, got sucked into that Foligno thing that it was supposed, it was the fourth period instead of the fourth period.
So here's the thing with Josh Ho-Sang.
Well, there's an EK capital I-UND out there too, which is really funny because it looks exactly the same.
Let's talk about Ho-Sang for a minute because there's a lot of other organizations he could go to and play in the AHL and be in total obscurity. He can't do that in Toronto.
Yeah, but he doesn't. I don't think he wants to be in.
I don't think he's a total obscurity type guy.
I don't think he wants to be in total obscurity. I think he.
No, but that might be what's best for him, Mike.
Right, it might be what's best for him, but I don't think that. I think in his mind, he's not that way.
I think he wants to stick it up Lou Lamoriello with a red hot poker.
I get that, but that's the problem with Ho-Sang. The last time I saw him play in the AHL a couple years ago was skates great, gets through the zone great, has all the offensive ability. Can't control himself with bad penalties, and definitely shows frustration out on the ice. And
Esmir,
does that,
tip of the hat on this one.
Yes.
If he does that with the Marlies, there's going to be a lot of talk about it, and it could derail his comeback.
I agree. Like really, I mean, he's. Yeah, I don't know what the right spot for him is.
If he plays well, he'd have a shot at the NHL with them.
Does he? I mean, he's really not the kind of guy who's going to be a bottom six player.
No. But I mean,
right spot would be Minnesota. You send him to Iowa, everybody forgets about him.
Russ, he's from the Toronto area. He's from the GTA.
I know. He
put up fantastic stats in the OHL. He's
different now, Mike. He is different now than that from that player then.
At the worst, he's a good signing for the Marlies. So I think that would be it's a low risk move.
He definitely is interesting and he has he's definitely a news person.
He is interesting. I hope the best for him. I'm sure he's matured to some degree, but again, he's going to have to be on his best behavior, and that means no rap singing. Don't start posting videos of your rap career. Don't start chiding with people on Twitter. Don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't work in the hockey world. Definitely not.
No.
This hockey world is not that progressive yet or anything like that,
Well, okay. In terms of progressive organizations, the Leafs are up there.
No, they are, and I mean, obviously they've got got a really young GM and everything like that.
I think it would be a friendly landing spot, and there would probably, he is 25 years old, so you have to put things into perspective. It's like, they had a reclamation project last year with Galchenyuk. They sort of straightened him out. They sort of straightened out the everything that were sort of shortcomings in his game that really bled into his game when he was in Arizona and Minnesota and Pittsburgh, and that paid off for them. He played well for them. So and we know with that $40 million block locked in on their roster, they're going to have to take stabs at players that maybe and not Tony DeAngelo, as somebody said in the chat.
No, they're not doing that.
Montreal might be signing Tony DeAngelo. That's always told.
But honestly, why not? They've already crossed the Rubicon. Why not?
It does. I
will say two things. So last summer is when Ho-Sang put out the rap song, almost exactly at this time, which is kind of deja vu-ish. It's called Learning if you want to go out there and listen to it. The other thing is, I think the worst place in the world for Tony DeAngelo is Montreal, because if he has even the slippest of slips talking to somebody who's French or saying the wrong thing, it will end his NHL career instantly.
Yeah.
I don't
Bernie,
think that's a place for him.
Bernie, I've heard the same thing. The Leafs had hired Carberry, who was the coach at Hershey, as an assistant coach. He has a great reputation. He won AHL Coach of the Year last year, even though it was an abbreviated season. I heard he's an up-and-comer. So they didn't fire anybody on that staff. So, again, Dubas has doubled down on the staff and on the roster too. But right now, I don't see how they can be as good as they were last year.
Yeah.
Losing Hyman and losing Anderson. But we have to wait. We have to wait to see how the offseason unfolds.
Yeah, no, it really we do have to. Also, I guess we should talk about the signing yesterday too. And you guys, did it happen before the show yesterday?
Which one?
The one in Florida.
Oh, you talking about Bennett?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think
After the show.
I think it's after the show, right? So I wasn't sure if you guys talked about it or not. I think it's it's a really good signing for both sides. I mean,
it is.
Yes.
4 years, $4 million. It's Bennett's career was in trouble. Before he got to
It was
Florida.
4.4.
Yeah, 4.475 for 4.
Okay, yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, Florida finally seems to be taking the same advantage that Tampa has. Because I think Bennett, any other place, is probably a $5 to $5.5 million player, but because of the Florida state tax, he took a little less, and he went there and he played well there. And after how he played in Calgary, I think any place he went to and played well with, he was going to sign there, and that's a good deal. It's a good amount for them.
Yeah.
And I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah,
he's a good player. This was a good signing.
Yeah.
Heck, I could add a rumor to the list here that I've heard a little bit about, and it's going to incent some people, but it's probably why it's a rumor. If the Rangers continue on this trend, like they have to be hard to play against, and they don't trade for Ryan Reeves, they might go after Casey Gazikis, because that's something where I don't think they would have any trouble sticking it to the Islanders, and that's the way it is.
No question they wouldn't have any trouble sticking to the Islanders. And he would be a good – I mean, it's really easy for those guys, to sign with any of those metro area teams. You don't have to move, you don't have to change anything. You just you travel where you travel to. So
I can see them making a push for him.
Well,
I think that makes total sense.
Now the thing is, Russ, he ends last year he was valuable in the playoffs. He's that type of player. He's at best a third liner, probably a fourth liner. He only had 14 points in 56 games last year.
They only care about the other stuff, Mike. They don't even care about points.
No, but what I'm saying is I don't think he can demand like a deal like Barclay Goodrow.
No, he can't.
Yeah, he's somebody who tops out at maybe $3 million.
You might be able to squeeze, 3.2 or something. And that's, and I think if you did something like 3.2 for 3 or 4 years with him, I think he could command that.
And if the Islanders are going big game hunting, which apparently they are, then a guy like Cizikas sort of falls through the cracks. So
yeah. I mean, they are going.
Well, how does Cal Clutterbuck continue to have a roster spot?
Well, because but I'll tell you. I can't explain it. That's why.
Well, that's like a Lou player. If you're a Lou player, you're in there.
I actually think the guy that, and I don't know about the Rangers, but a guy that Cizikas might be fighting with in terms of teams looking for centers is Danault. Now I think Danault is a third line center, but in Montreal he played the matchup against the big center, and he's probably going to get way overpaid. But I think Cizikas is going to have to wait until Danault signs before the market clears.
I'm not sure. I don't think he's looking. I don't think there's a comparable there.
I don't think they go up against each other really.
And I don't think they go up against each other. I will tell you this from my sense of what's going on there with Danault. I don't think he's going to get as overpaid as we all think he was going to.
I think he's riding his playoff performance way too much. That's what people are saying. I mean, people saw like last year in Montreal during the year, he was not very good.
When you got it, baby, flaunt it.
No. But
I'm not saying you shouldn't, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that the NHL GMs are that dumb. Like that.
Yeah, they're not going to give him like 5.9 or stupid numbers like that.
But somebody might be stupid enough to give him 5.
I don't think they will.
Montreal offered him 5 and he turned it down. So
that's stupid.
The reality is, I was stupid of him, and I think that Montreal can end up with him again. I think that they could.
I think it was stupid on both sides. I think it's a stupid offer from Montreal, and it's a stupid rejection by Danault. He's not. He may not get $5 million now, maybe, but if I'm a team, whoever signs him to a $5 million contract, that's a dumb deal. That is a cap killer.
Depends how long it is. Okay, like if it's
5 or 6 years.
If it's like a 4-year, $5 million contract, I could think about it. I agree. If it's 5 or 6, no. But
I think that's what he's looking for, though, is 5 or 6.
Oh, he's definitely looking for that, and that's the problem with Landeskog too, is he's looking for longer.
Here's the reason, Mike. I've been hearing this undercurrent, and Eck probably is too. We do in this league, defensive centers have a value, right?
Yep.
But they don't have a tremendous value, and I think when you overplay your hand like that, it can come back and bite you. Like, there was nobody better, like, let's just say, than Jan Eriksson back in the day of the Rangers, but he never made big money.
Russ, I was going to use the example of Bobby Holik. Yeah. Bobby Holik was a great third line center, a great matchup center for the Devils. When he signs that $9 million contract with the Rangers and is put on in the top 6, he was terrible because he wasn't a top 6 player.
But at least Holik had 30 goals once because he would score on the crease. I mean, Danault's never getting 30 goals.
No.
It also just really throws their game up, because if you get paid that kind of money, you start to think about scoring. I mean, you have to think about scoring, and Danault has to think about what he hits to play his game. Like, he is what he is, and he's a great shutdown guy, one of the best shutdown guys. Could be one of the best. But is he going to turn into like now Bergeron? He's not. That's not where he's heading.
We're gonna probably float this narrative a bunch of times tomorrow on our free agent show, which will start at 11:30 tomorrow.
Yep, 11:30 a.m. folks.
I don't think Jack Eichel's getting traded.
I don't either.
I think Jack Eichel is going to end up having the surgery and playing with the Sabres this year because they have to reestablish his value and his health.
Yep, I agree.
Once they do that, Eck, then I don't know how they do it at the deadline, but before the no move clause kicks in next summer, then he'll be traded. Right now,
I'm going to give you a crazier scenario, Mike.
Okay.
I think he's starting the season without surgery.
If he does that, Russ, then the whole neck thing was a ruse.
No, but I think they're just going to tell us that he's been rehabbing it, because if he was that bad off, they would not be giving us reports that he's out on the ice and he's training hard and everything.
Skate with your neck. You don't skate with your neck. He's skating around in Massachusetts.
Okay, I want to tell you something. From a guy who has a bulging disc in his neck and has had it for over 20 years, everything you do affects your neck. Everything. Right. You walk the wrong way, you do. Trust me, even skating will bother his neck. And there's no way, if his neck is in that kind of condition, they have him out there training hard. So he must be rehabbing it already.
That's not impossible, Russ. Not impossible. I agree. And I do think he'll be moved before his no movement clause kicks in.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I think that's something that they will do, unless he just takes off this year. I mean, he has an incredible year and things get better, which is.
Hey, I want to congratulate Funky that he's getting his second COVID shot tomorrow. That's great.
Yeah, we really appreciate
that.
Not
here, we'll carry on, but I'm glad you're getting it.
Arthur Staple reports. Pierre LeBrun reported earlier that Nate Schmidt, his agent, and Jim Benning are working together to find him a new home. Good luck with that. But according
is this like a puppy they're trying to adopt? A puppy?
According to Arthur Staple,
he's a cute little defenseman.
This would have to be some serious cap gymnastics to make it work, but the Islanders might be interested in him. Here's why would you trade off Nick Leddy, who's making 5.5 to clear his money, and then trade for a defenseman who's making 5.9 for 4 more years? I don't think. I mean, they'd have to get him at a significant discount.
Yeah.
I think so.
So no, I doubt that. But anyway,
I'm kind of surprised he wasn't thrown into the deal with all the other people.
Now there is something here, Echo, I saw in the chat room. We're going to mention it.
Yeah.
I guess somebody said, and I hope this is true, that it's been on Twitter, but Dennis Bernstein's mentioning that Dougie Hamilton may be to Nashville. And, there is some sense to that. I don't know how much cap space they have.
I don't know, though. I mean, at least talking to people down there, I actually think that, well, it depends where Hamilton wants to go.
You're still going the island? You're still going with the Devils, giving him a shot?
No, I think the Devils will offer him the most money. I've heard that. I've heard that flat out, and now that whether or not that matters or not, I mean, and being in New York, being in the New York metro area is something that Hamilton apparently is interested in.
Okay,
so we'll see, but I think, and it's going to be really expensive for the Predators to do that.
I can mention one more thing, Mike. Hold on. He's probably interested in being in the New York area because he's pre-med. At some point, when his career is over, he may become a doctor. So if you are in that New York metro area, that's a great place to be for that next career.
I'm scanning Bernstein's timeline, and I don't see the Hamilton. So not to say that's not true, but I'm just saying I don't see it.
Maybe he said on the radio.
I think he said that on XM. I think I heard him say that on XM.
Okay.
Good museums in Nashville. Well, it's funny you say that because there's one.
They do have $27 million in cap space. I'm shocked at that.
There's a country music museum in Nashville. It's really good, but there's another museum in Nashville. It's not so great. It's like basically it's about like the history of the city going back, and most of it is about how badly the Indians were treated there, and then how badly African Americans were treated there. And it's not a really good museum. It's a museum that's definitely
now
worth
looking at. There's no city that can rival New York for museums. If we're
nothing. No one can rival New York for anything like that.
Bernstein is tied in with especially in Southern California, and he has Deno possibly going to the Kings.
I can see that.
Also,
that is something they don't have.
Also, David Peg. This is perfect. Pagnotta reported about 40 minutes ago that Tampa is looking to reshape part of their roster, and one player that I believe they'll pursue is Corey Perry.
Oh my goodness!
I've heard that too. Getzlaf, it looks like, is going to go UFA too, so that's going to be really, really interesting. It looks like Getzlaf is not signing back in Anaheim.
Wow, that surprises me.
It does surprise me too, but I've heard it's about 90% now that he's not signing back there. That's
to Toronto.
I don't know where he would go. I mean,
no, he's still going to look for money, Mike. He's going to look for money, but he's also probably going to look to win.
I'm genuinely shocked at that because I thought that he would stay there.
Yeah, so did I. But apparently, I guess the money isn't right in Anaheim. I guess the money's ridiculously low in Anaheim.
I mean, Anaheim probably is offering him like $1 million or $2 million.
Right.
I could see him in Vegas if Vegas moves one of their goalies. I could see that. I mean, that gives them a center right up the middle, and that would be something strong for them.
Yeah, I mean, could Getzlaf have one more run where he helps him it's still a little iffy though.
Yeah, it
does
iffy.
give him center depth. It does.
It is iffy, but if they can't get Landeskog, or they can't get Eichel, if they can't get Eichel, especially, who they really want to get.
I'll tell you what though, if the Islanders are gonna lose Kazikas, you know what? Maybe they go after Getzlaf.
Yeah. I've heard Perry wants to play in Montreal again too. I've heard that too, by the way.
Yeah.
But
I can see, look, if Getzlaf went to the Island, that would give them, especially if Lee is really healthy, that's two big centers. That helps you, man.
Yeah.
That helps you.
Jeremy,
he still's game.
Jeremy just sent me a tweet saying that with the quote that fourth period that the stealth team for Hamilton would be with Nashville. Because they've cleared cap space by trading Ellis.
Right. Yeah, they have more cap space than I realized. So I guess that is a possibility.
And Hamilton is a right-hand shot defenseman that would replace Ellis. So
and Poyle loves his defenseman. So
he's a bigger defenseman. That the concern has always been, they're all those.
But we can't use Dougie Hamilton as an example of a bigger defenseman, like he's going to be physical or something.
Right. He's a big defenseman who plays like a small defenseman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see Getzlaf going with Perry to Montreal. So I'm gonna put that in the chat room. I could see that.
Or
I can't see Getzlaf in Montreal.
I mean, hey, Tampa has a hole up the middle with Yanni Gord leaving. How about Getzlaf and Perry in Tampa?
Yeah. I think the only problem is Getzlaf won't get paid enough in Tampa.
Right. If his motivation is money, like Ryan,
it's going to be both. I mean, he's going to want probably $3 million. Mike.
He's going to want money, but he also realizes that Anaheim's not going to win anything while he's still playing there, right? So
Ryan Suter apparently does not want to take a league minimum deal to go someplace and win a cup. He wants to get paid and he wants term, and that's going to limit his ability to find a team that can win. I don't think
I've heard Florida and him actually a lot.
Which may be the reason why they cleared out Strawman's deal.
Yep.
I could see Getzlaf getting like a 2-year deal, $3 million per, something like that.
Yep.
He's only 35. It's not like he's 40 or approaching 40. Is he a little slower? Yes. He should be like a third line center for somebody.
Yeah.
But again, he's still a useful player.
Still a very smart player, still a great leader. I mean, he brings a lot to your room. So it's like there's a lot, there's a lot there. That's all the time we have for today, folks. We will be back again tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. until who God knows when. But all I can tell you is we're better at killing time than the NHL draft was on the second day on NHL Network. So we're good at killing time. And if we have nothing's going on, we'll kill time until we realize nothing is going on at all.
I think a gold medal should be given to Sam Constantino of Sportsnet because he carried a lot of water.
He did.
Sam did a great job.
No question. Without the buzz, remember, folks, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.